Yeah. So talking about the whole, BitDance, China-owned social media platform. I saw something crazy today, man.
What you see,
So
Doc?
I was going through Instagram, right? And they captured a small conversation of Putin talking to what's the guy? Xi Jinping or some shit.
President Xi.
Yeah, President Xi, the freaking leader of China, bro. So in the conversation, they have the president of China, or leader of China, what the hell they call him, prime minister, or whatever they call him, talking to Putin. And in the conversation, the person filming, they're able to get some of the voice recording. And basically, the translator that's next to the president of China is like, "Oh, we're going to continue together with our partnership, continue our agenda for the next 100 years." And he's like, and they shook hands. He's like, "Take care, safe travels." And the China guy, he went to the China president went to the his limo and he drove off. So that was pretty crazy, man. It makes you wonder, like, what agenda have they had in place that they're talking about the next 100 years,
China thinks long
or is
term.
it just more of a, yeah,
China's
it's
trying to figure
insane.
out where it sits in the next paradigm of the world order. That's all it is.
And he he did he change the law in China where basically he's just the permanent leader of China, or how
Oh
did that
yeah, like
go?
I forgot what he called it, but it's basically president forever.
I mean
Yeah,
that kind of like, just to bring it back to the naive guy. I mean that could happen over there too if
right, and
power
that's what I mean.
corrupts.
Like that's the ultimate strength, or the ultimate strength. Um, that's the ultimate strongman kind of scenario. Democratically elected, kill off all of your, or either kill off or just eliminate all of your competition one way or another and make them
Yeah.
unviable. And, keep the democratic elections open, but the only name on the ballot is me. Kind of sketch,
And dude,
but free.
we're talking about China, we're talking about Russia, we're talking about Nayib Bukele, El Salvador. What the hell is America doing? What's Joe Biden doing?
Yo, what is our commander in chief doing? El comandante.
What is he doing, man? El comandante, bro. El jefe. Like, what is he doing, man?
I don't know, man.
What do you think we should do? What should we be like? What should America be doing right now?
I mean, we should have done what we should do what we should have done a year ago, which is put our dick on the table and sit everybody down and say, hey, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and this is the way it's going to go down. For Russia, you're
Prior
going to
to
go
the
home.
Ukraine war?
No, I'm not even talking about prior to the Ukraine war. Like this war has been a long time coming. We had 30 years to
Yeah.
prevent this from happening, and we messed up and on a bunch of different fronts. Not to remove any kind of blame from Putin for doing what he did,
Do you think that we saw that coming? Do you think American intelligence knew that there was going to be a war,
for sure.
that Russia was preparing?
Yeah, this is not new.
Yeah. You know, yeah, what's crazy? About 2 years, not to put my friend on blast, I'm not going to name him, but one of my friends that is an investor in a certain region of Mexico, right? That he's into the whole Airbnb thing. He noticed about a year and a half ago that there was several wealthy Ukrainian people moving in, like several months and stuff. And it was crazy because then 2 months later, Russia declared war and they started, trying to, you know, take over Ukraine and stuff. So it's kind of crazy how it seems like the wealthy people, because the people that were moving over to that region were wealthy. They were buying properties and they're like, they didn't want to say why they're staying there. Oh, I like Mexico, the country's amazing, blah blah blah. Surely, after the war was announced, my friend that's Airbnb investor that has properties down there, he was like, they opened up and they're like, yeah, we knew the war was gonna happen, and we got first word. So it's kind of messed up, like how the wealthy, like knew prior to everyone else that the war was gonna happen. So I guess follow the money. I guess that saying actually goes in the situation.
No, that's valid. You should
Yeah.
always follow the money.
Yeah, so all this talk about, Russia, China, and all the other countries we spoke about, well, El Salvador. I think we mentioned the world leader of Colombia talking trash, about what El Salvador
I don't
does and
care
stuff.
about none of them. Let's talk
Damn.
USA.
Yeah, what the hell is USA doing, bro? Like all these other countries are making power moves. What the hell is Joey doing, bro?
He's eating his prune juice. Let me be the first to say it. Like, come
Damn.
on, man. Asleep at the wheel?
So what do you think he should be doing? Do you think he should be out there, having conversations with other world leaders, putting
I
his
think
what down?
I think he should put his dick on the table and tell Russia
Yeah.
this is over. Tell Ukraine go home. And drumroll, please, dismantle NATO. I think that's going to be the punchline.
Dismantle NATO?
Dismantle NATO. NATO was established to counter the threat of, well, the Soviet threat.
Yeah,
The Soviet threat
yeah,
ended in 1991 at the end of at the final end of the Cold War. And ever since then, it's caused more issues than not. We're paying for the majority of it, and an attack against one NATO country invokes Article 5 and the whole world goes to war, which would inevitably, I mean, at the current level of technology we have, would utterly decimate the planet
yeah.
if we crack nuclear
But
into it.
now that you mention that, like the way I see that is that if we get rid of NATO, I see other countries just creating their own other alliance, and then as countries, get together, especially if, people remember, and we have a lot of, I guess, we have a lot of bad history with a lot of the world, right? We're
Yeah, is
kind of
lonely
known
at the
to.
top. Anybody who's made it to the top of
No,
any
so
respective empire is going to
what I'm
have a
trying
whole
to
bunch of
say
people who
is
don't like them.
no, but what I'm trying to say is if NATO gets, it gets abolished, everyone does their own thing. What might end up happening is that all the other countries that remember, like, hey, the U.S. came in here, they did this, and that. Oh, they did that to me too. Okay, let's get together. Boom, boom. Next thing you know, you have a superpower all together, jumped up and stuff, and they might be prior allies of NATO, right?
It would
We
still
no
not be in their
longer
best
have that.
interest to be aligned against the United States. I mean, it's not like if you disband NATO, that somehow we don't have allies left in the world. We still have
I
a
was gonna
lot
say
of
that, but you never know.
allies.
For
You don't
now,
know now. I mean, there's a bunch of countries aligned against us now. Do I think it would
yeah.
result in a whole list of new enemies? No, I think it'd be the same face of the old enemies. But if I'm only saying disband NATO as a thought experiment from the perspective of over the past 30 years, how many acquisitions or how many new additions to NATO have there been made? I don't even know the number off the top of my head, but let's call it more than one. And let's call it more than one in the direction of Russia, who perceives that as a threat. And in order to
Yeah.
reclaim some kind of land and some kind of sphere of influence, they're taking the preemptive step of invading a sovereign country of Ukraine. And something tells me that's not going to be the end of it. Because as long as they perceive NATO as a threat, they're going to continue to do that. With that being said, I don't like being in the current position where we are openly contributing and participating in a proxy war and clearly picking sides, knowing that at the end of this rainbow, it could be the very end of all life as we know it. And people are being very casual with that. And I don't think it's worth it.
Mm.
I'd much rather nullify the situation, broker peace between the two nations, and not leave it in the hands of Xi Jinping or any other world leader, any other number two or number three person who's looking for that top spot. I think Joe Biden should be the one to sit down, have this conversation, and put people where they need to be and give them what they need to hear.
So you
But as
don't.
of right now,
Oh, so I continue.
I don't like where the current trajectory. I don't like our current trajectory as a planet. And what's next? Are we going to arm Ukraine to mount an offensive into Crimea so that they can reclaim it? Doesn't seem like a good idea. If we're playing by conventional warfare rules, Russia does not lose in this scenario because it's got a big red button that it can press. And it wouldn't necessarily be pointed at us, but it would be pointed at Ukraine, and inevitably it would elicit a response from us. So the end game is the same regardless of who he points it at. I think all eyes and all guns get pointed back at them. All guns get pointed at each other, mutually assured destruction. Like, I can't see a way out of that. I don't see an off ramp with the current situation that we're in, where it's pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, but
And I don't like the idea of Xi Jinping being the guy that's going to say, hey, I'm going to settle this. I don't trust your intentions.
so that's another thing. Yeah, it seems like China's now gaining a like power where basically he's coming up with an influence, right, to other countries and proposing solutions versus like that's basically where we're known for, right? The USA is known for creating peace treaties between other countries and everyone else, going along with it. But it seems that China's stepping in, like they did in Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Well, it was our place after World War II. That was kind of America's role in the New World Order, is we are going to secure the waterways and ensure international trade. And as long as you can trade with whoever you want, you don't have to fight for resources. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have oil in your country and you want to trade, you don't necessarily have to go and invade into another country. How about you just trade for the oil? And so that was kind of our part. And so it fell upon us to broker that peace between warring nations. But we were trying to put an end to the whole empirical warfare. World War One, World War Two. That's enough. We said no mas.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it led to a whole bunch of situations where damn, honestly, we're gonna have to pause that. Some gunshots outside.
Really? I don't think that was gunshots. Was that gunshots?
Nah,
Oh.
nah, worse. Shit was dumb close.
Bratata.
Shit was dumb close.
Yeah, what was that though? What was the sound?
It's fireworks.
Oh,
So we're back.
yeah.
Josh, what role does America play in forming the new world order?
What role? It seems like they have
What
no
role
role
are we
right
gonna
now.
play?
I don't. Well, it
Which
seems like we're backing off. We're backing off on everything. It seems like China's now is having a bigger influence on what other countries do now, man. People are going along with it. We're
so
losing our role
why?
in the world.
Do you think that's on purpose, or do you think that's just the result of poorly run administration, or all right, maybe not a poorly run administration, but a failing domestic policy, or not a domestic policy, a foreign policy?
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's a failure of domestic policy, and not only that, I think we haven't really been involved with the world other than from what I've seen Ukraine, right? What's going on with Russia. But I really haven't heard anything about, anywhere else in the world.
Oh, we're involved in a bunch of places, but the common theme is that we're pulling back in Afghanistan for
Okay.
20 years and
Yeah.
pulled back.
Well, yeah, we also did that, yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I mean, it almost feels like ineptitude at this point. Like, why are we still playing this game? Why are we still playing this game with Russia? We know what they're sitting on. I'm not really trying to call that bluff, and I'm not scared of Russia. What I am scared of is two inconsolable parties who decide that they're hell bent on, you know, locking horns with each other at the cost of everybody else. We were talking about, or democratically solved problems and voting directly on issues. This is something that none of us approved of. And our participation in an open proxy war against Russia is not something that the American people voted for.
Yeah.
And I get the rah rahness of it all, and I get the downtroddenness of Ukraine, but at the same time, I feel like the American population is they're not prepared for what comes next if we continue going down this road, and they're writing a check that they can't cash. Our run rate
So you
for
think it's
this
just
war,
better to just pull out?
Yeah, I think this is a situation that's better handled locally in their own sphere of influence. But the problem is, we can't get involved without involving the entire war or the entire world, which Russia will inevitably perceive as a threat. I don't know how many more economic sanctions we can put on them or any of their partners without further alienating them. We need people to come to the table and agree to a solution. And I really want to know what our current administration is planning on doing with that, because it is a long time before we actually vote on a new president. In terms of any day, my man could drop the button, that being Putin. I'm not
Yeah.
trusting it. That's a lot of butt puckering time. I ain't got that kind. Mm-mm. I don't need any more gray hairs on account of the world ending. I just think it's a bad look. I hate being this critical about any individual, and I like to say that I'm not a fan of any politician, but I am pro President of the United States. I don't care who's sitting in the chair. Um, I care that the chair is filled, and I care that the chair is doing what it needs to do for not only the good of its own constituency, but for the free world and for those that are not free. I feel like the president of the United States kind of has a responsibility to do the right thing in this situation, and the right thing is to find off ramps as quick as possible. And if it means appeasement, then it means appeasement. But the point is to get this world away from the brink of nuclear war. And I don't see the leaders of the free world stepping up to do that. I see them picking sides in a proxy war, a dangerous one at that.
Do you see that like if we do keep pulling back, like what's gonna happen with all of like let's just say the day they disband NATO, would we still have the right to have like bases all around other countries and stuff like that? Like how would that work?
Legally
And if we
speaking, I don't think so. We would have to be invited by other countries, which we are now. We don't just like show up. I mean, with the
yes,
exception of war times, for the most part, there's an agreement between that sovereign country and us in order to have troops and or any kind of American presence there. But in a world where we disband NATO, sure, we're still going to have allies who want that, and it's still going to be in their best interest to have the world's most elite military apparatus somewhere close by within arm's reach. But it's also our prerogative to say we don't need to be involved in any of this. Um,
yeah.
I think globalization has taken its course. I think it worked for a while, but it clearly didn't do what it was intended to do, which was prevent world wars. We are literally at the doorstep of World War III. And we can't blame it on anything else. And there's nothing there to prevent this from this. So it's like globalization, in my opinion, has failed.
Wow.
If the whole point was to make countries economically economically dependent on each other to some extent, because if they have mutual interests, then they're somehow less likely to go to war with each other. Okay, explain China, explain Russia. None of these things make sense. Under that doctrine, none of this makes sense. And if it did make sense, then you should be able to show me a clear path, a clear off ramp that de-escalates this whole situation and puts us back on in the direction of prosperity for all and peace for all. But I'm not hearing that from anybody. So we just need to kind of admit that this version of globalization is kind of coming to its that book is kind of coming to a close real quick. And what are we going to do after that?
Yeah.
Which is why you're seeing China vie for jockeying for position, and Russia butting up with China because they're looking for long-term success. They need to find a way to do it without U.S. involvement, because it doesn't look like we're trying to bring them to the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah. Do you see them being successful?
Who?
China and Russia?
No, no, I don't.
Yeah, me
No, I
neither.
don't. China's importing over 40% of all of its food.
Wow.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck trying to feed your people if you decide to back Russia into a world war.
where does the majority of their food come from?
I have no idea. It's not
Pacific
necessarily
Islands, I'm
their
guessing.
it's not necessarily their food. It's the inputs. It's the agricultural inputs. It's like the phosphate, the nitrogen
Oh
for the
yeah,
fertilizer. It's that kind of thing. It's the potash. You know, if you need to grow rice and your rice is dependent on I forget what it is. Is it potash? I think it's dependent on potash. But if you don't have it and your rice doesn't grow, you got a
yeah.
whole group of billions of people that can't eat. You know what I
Jeez.
mean? So it's like, where are you getting all your oil from? Oh, you're getting all your oil from Russia. Great. Well, Russia's not allowed to get any kind of, what is it? I think there's the European countries kind of came together and said, hey, we're not going to afford any insurance policies on Russian vessels carrying Russian crude. And if you don't have an insurance policy, then you can't dock at a European port.
Oh wow.
So you're kind of screwed in that situation. So I think what they're doing right now is that they're tying up barges in the middle of the ocean, tankers, super tankers, getting the oil from one place to another ship, and then bringing it roundabout. But what you inevitably have is, you know, a trade route that's highly vulnerable to attack.
Yeah.
And Peter Zion really does. He goes into this in his book and in his talks that he's been given lately. But you know, it doesn't take much for one of you know one of many motivated groups of people to say, "Hey, we're going to go hijack a Russian tanker or blow it up."
Damn. With no insurance
What does that
policy.
do to the forget the level of ecological disaster that it would be? Just talk about the oil production in general. That happens, oil production halts for a day. 2 million barrels get backed up. It halts for 2 days, another 2 million. They can't hold that oil forever. It gets backed up into the permafrost where it freezes. When it freezes, the water expands in the pipes, cracks all the pipes, and they're back to the Stone Age.
Wow.
Now China gets no oil. Now nobody else gets no oil. Venezuela doesn't get oil. Nobody gets oil. So it's like it's a highly volatile situation. And Russia tying their salvation to China doesn't seem like it's a winning strategy to me because they're also on the lifeboat too. So I don't care how big both of your countries are combined. I don't care how many, conventional forces you have combined. At the end of the day, if you can't feed the group of people that you need in order to sustain that apparatus, it's all going bye bye.
Wow. That is insane, bro. I never thought it through that deep.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not wishing this on the world. I don't think it's a winning strategy. I honestly think the adults in the room need to wake the fuck up and come together and sit at the table and say, "Yo, enough is enough." And you know what? If you are head honcho, if you are, commander in chief, you are the leader of the free world. I think it's your responsibility to come, sit down, and bring everybody to the table. You should be able to snap your fingers and say, "Yo, we're gonna have this conversation. We're gonna have it now."
Yeah, I agree.
And
All
enough
right.
is enough.
Enough is enough. All right, guys. Well, just make sure to tune in next week. I'm just wondering, dude, like the way we're living, what the hell's gonna happen next week, bro?
Stay tuned for season 3 of America.
America. All right, guys. So just make sure to, like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Um, we're gonna continue bringing you value, and yeah, just stay tuned for more. Peace.